as we have already discussed, both the transcendent persona and the immanent persona do engage in mutual exclusivity. This mutual exclusivity does imply, on the one side, convergence, which means the direction or the motion, both personas, towards the gap of the third moment in between. And on the other side, divergence, meaning the direction or the motion of both personas away from the gap of the third moment. Both convergence and divergence are therefore directed in complementarily opposite directions. In either case though, be it in the case of convergence or divergence, the behavior of both personas is identical and therefore symmetric. Convergence and divergence are therefore the two symmetric cases that we have discussed already, which can also be referred to as symmetric engagement between both personas. Next to these two symmetric cases, or next to these two symmetric engagements, there's a third possible engagement of both personas, which is not symmetric but asymmetric. In this asymmetric case, the transcendent object or the transcendent persona is not directed whatsoever. Unlike the direction, the transcendent object manifests in both symmetric cases. The immanent object or the immanent persona is even more strongly directed compared to its state of convergence, meaning its own direction is strongly enforced, making it therefore asymmetric. The lack of direction the transcendent object or transcendent persona manifests, and the enhanced direction of the immanent object or the immanent persona are not the same. They are both of complementarily opposite nature. Since to the very same extent in which there's a lack of direction or a deficit of direction regarding the transcendent persona or object, so is there an even stronger direction of the immanent object or immanent persona. This asymmetry, though, is of complementarily opposite nature. The very asymmetry of the immanent persona does manifest neurologically. And because the asymmetric direction of the immanent persona is directed away from the first moment towards the end of the second moment, the direction of the immanent persona is directed towards the transcendent counterpart above. The neurological asymmetry of the immanent persona in its distinctive neurodivergent state is applied in multiple ways. One way in which the asymmetry of the immanent persona in relationship towards the transcendent persona manifests is, for example, through a strong desire to get close to its transcendent counterpart. This strong desire is of equally neurological nature as the asymmetry the immanent persona manifests, and is therefore involuntary, just as involuntary as the unfree will of the primary immanent persona we have discussed in the last episode. As we have discussed already, the transcendent persona and the immanent persona in their direct engagement with one another do manifest complementarily opposite shapes. The shape of the immanent persona is order, meaning an outwardly curved bend of the neurodivergence, and the transcendent persona, on the other side, does manifest the complementarily opposite shape, meaning a disorderly curve or an inwardly bent curve. The transcendent persona's engaging side, which is the beginning of the fourth moment, is inwardly curved and therefore disorderly, which is physically applied as vulnerability or as personal boundary, which is responsible for one's understanding of trust or distrust on the other side. The asymmetry that is manifested by the immanent persona in relationship to the transcendent persona manifests, for example, through not just a desire to get close to the transcendent counterpart, but also can mean that one cannot respect its juxtaposed counterpart's personal boundaries. Another application of the neurological asymmetry of the primary immanent persona in a relationship towards its transcendent counterpart is test, meaning the person who manifests the immanent persona with its distinctive neurodivergent state does test its transcendent counterpart. The very asymmetry of the immanent persona does only apply to the primary immanent persona. The neurological nature of the asymmetry of the immanent persona is consistent with unfree will and therefore inevitability. When the person manifesting the immanent persona chooses test its transcendent counterpart, so does this happen not through the inevitability of the primary immanent persona and therefore unfree will, but through the secondary immanent persona, meaning the entity that latently dwells within with its free will, which shows that free and unfree will both coincide. One can consider the manifestation of asymmetry by the immanent persona and its direction that comes along with it as a combination of the very space and time aspect of the immanent object that we have discussed already, given that there's a specific goal that comes along with the direction of the asymmetry. A goal can be considered the very marriage of a space and time aspect, because the goal that is ought to be pursued representing the space aspect on the one side, and on the other side the future achievement of this very goal as the time aspect, which both come together in the very conceptualization of a specific goal. Therefore, the marriage of the very space and time aspect that we have discussed in the context of the immanent object of the second concept of 5 does apply in the asymmetry of the immanent persona in its relationship towards its transcendent counterpart. The unfree will of the primary immanent persona does emit from the first moment, spans across the span of the second moment, and is finalized in the very end of the second moment, which is directly adjacent to the transcendent persona, given the direct engagement in which both personas do engage in. The goal of the immanent persona, therefore, is not the end of the second moment itself, but rather the directly adjacent transcendent counterpart.